Electricity generation is not the only source of greenhouse gases. Transportation accounts for a third of global warming pollution. This is why developing clean transportation alternatives is also crucial for our planet's survival.
Certainly, you couldn't say biofuels are going to cure everything. But can biofuels be a key player? Yeah, it can make huge difference, billions of gallons worth of difference.
Jack Newman is co-founder and head of research of Amyris Biotechnologies, a Northern California biofuels company. As a scientist and environmental activist, Newman and several colleagues found a way to help save the planet without leaving the lab.
We determined early on that we could make a killer diesel product in a microbe. It'll work in today's diesel engines. It's got all the power and torque that you need, and it can reduce greenhouse gases by up to like 80%.
Newman's journey began in 2003 in the chemical engineering lab at Berkeley, where he and two friends discovered a way to genetically modify yeast to make medicine.
We started making an anti-malarial drug very, very inexpensively, and then it was, geez, what else can we make? And what other things could have a really big impact in the world?
The ambitious trio formed Amyris with the goal of making a biofuel from the same microbiological process.
A reprogramming of the chemical root that exists within yeast. Plants make a hydrocarbon-based covering on their leaves so that water doesn't get inside. And by taking some of the programming from plants and putting it into a yeast strain that's really good at making ethanol, you can get a yeast strain that's really good at making a hydrocarbon. We build on improvement. We'll take probably the last strain that was pretty good at making diesel and try to put the next idea into it via DNA to make the next generation of strain.
Each of these colonies here corresponds from a single cell. That single cell ideally has the change that we believe we've made.
And from that colony, you can grow up a liquid culture. Basically just put it into sugarcane juice.
What we're seeing is the relative size here of the production strain of yeast. All of these small spheres here, these larger spheres are accumulated fuel.
Once you get a hit, something that's better, then you move into a fermentation tank that's, about the size of a bread box. That idea that you had, manifested through DNA and expressed in yeast, ends up turning sugar into fuel.
Well, this is our fuel, and this is petroleum diesel fuel. There are more impurities in this one than in this one. That's a much purer product.
Corn ethanol has captured the lion's share of federal subsidies in the U.S., and vast tracts of land have been diverted from growing food to growing corn for ethanol. But it has distinct drawbacks.
We quickly came to see that it was not a good idea to be burning food to make energy.
Newman and his team use Brazilian sugar to make their fuel because it is the most efficient and inexpensive feedstock currently available. They are partnering with a Brazilian company to build their first large-scale biorefinery.
There's an entire infrastructure built out around making billions of gallons of fuel in Brazil.
Already, Amyris is producing fuel in its new pilot plant. And by 2010, they hope to be able to produce fuel on a scale that can compete with traditional fossil fuels at less than $2 a gallon.
To actually have a hit that gets you to production scale, you just pinch yourself. It's amazing when it works. Science is amazing when it works.
Coming up next, making fuel with enzymes found in the most extreme places. And the ultimate green sports car. Among the sugarcane flats of southern Louisiana, a former brewmaster is making ethanol from the waste byproduct of the sugarcane plant.
I was making beer then, and we're making beer now. But the beer we're making now can have dramatic effects on what's happening, not just here in this country, but all over the world.
As Director of Technology Development at Verenium, Russ Heisner brings his experience brewing beer you drink to the brewing of ethanol.
A lot of the process engineering and the basic design work is something that you might find in a brewery.
But what's different is Verenium makes its ethanol from bagasse, the pulp or dry waste left after the juice has been squeezed from the stems of sugarcane and other fibrous crops. So the food for fuel conflict isn't an issue.
Cellulose is every plant matter you can think of that you can't eat. It's wood, it's corn stalks, it's corn husks, it's grasses, it's leaves. All of that indigestible plant matter is composed of cellulose.
At Verenium's plant, the biomass is pumped full of water and acid, then exposed to heat and pressure, creating a steam explosion that splits the tough fibers and spits a sugary syrup into one tank and a cellulosic mass into another. Rare, powerful enzymes break down the tough strands of cellulose into fermentable sugars. Microbes then turn the sugars into ethanol. The secret to Verenium's technology is the enzymes.
Verenium has gone out bioprospecting for organisms that can survive in places like glaciers and volcanoes, mine the enzymes out of them, and then use their amazing laboratories in San Diego with these robots that can look at 1 million enzymes at a time to find the enzymes that are most effective.
With its pilot plant fully operational, Verenium is now poised to open its first demonstration plant, where they anticipate greater biofuel yields than anything achieved with corn.
For corn plants is roughly in the magnitude of about 300 gallons per acre. We're more in the magnitude of around 1,800 to 2,000 gallons per acre.
By 2011, Verenium hopes to scale up to commercial production, brewing 36 million gallons of cellulosic ethanol a year.
I think the biggest challenge is going to be, do we have the political will to foster these industries in their infancy? Market-based mechanisms such as a carbon cap and trade policy will allow for investment in technologies that have a negative carbon footprint.
Cap and trade, it'll change the game. All of a sudden, we will start valuing carbon footprint, whereas right now we do not at all. It's almost as if, you can put your trash on the street and you're not anybody to pick. It would be a game changer.